Within our souls, we all possess a dream which lay dormant until intrigue strikes its match and sets the torch we carry ablaze, leading us down the path of the unknown towards our dreams. As coaches who are former high-performance athletes, our personal experiences have shown us that a coach, parent, or even a fellow athlete have the potential to either illuminate or extinguish the dreams of young athletes. Nothing is lost from the candle which lights another. We are here to share our stories and our passion to illuminate the champion within, empowering coaches, parents, and athletes to keep the flame of their dreams burning eternally. You are listening to Illuminating Champions with Michal and Ashley Anton.
Welcome to another episode of Illuminating Champions. For our first-time listeners, my name is Ashley, and I'm here with my husband, Michal.
Hey, how are you guys?
We also have a very special guest with us. He is our personal coach and our brand artist. His name is Mark Patterson. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
So today's episode is entitled The Power of Self-Reflection, and it's all about learning to self-reflect when it comes to performing your sport, whether it's just in day-to-day practice or after competition, and how useful of a tool this is to actually promote growth and self-love within the athlete and really help them identify what made them proud at the end of that day and keep them uplifted and excited to get better. And how important it is for coaches and for parents to help athletes use self-reflection positively, as self-reflection, of course, points out what went well and what didn't. So it's very vital to the athlete's mental wellness that they learn to emphasize the good and be excited to correct the bad. So that is what we really want to go over today. And Mark is going to help us out with this topic. So why don't you get us started off, Mark?
Sure. Self-reflection is such a deep subject when you think about it. You usually think about, teenagers or middle-aged people looking back on life and why am I here? It's really interesting to say you're teaching 4 and 6-year-old girls this concept of self-reflection using the concept of gymnastics. So kind of give me an idea of how you just begin to teach that. How do you break into that with these people?
Sure. So in practice, it's important to talk to them about feeling what they're doing, like we've talked about in past episodes, because of course you can't see what your body is doing. So you have to be in tune with what you're doing, and you can give them certain exercises that are not even a skill, just like kicking your leg and holding it and feeling like that you're squeezing the muscle, and then start to get them to feel what they did. And then their mind automatically starts being in the position to be like, okay, did I actually squeeze? Oh, that time my leg was bent. And then they start reflecting upon what they're doing automatically and trying to auto-correct to make it better. And then as they get closer to competition, of course, that skill set expands and it transforms into a whole routine. And that's when it's very hard because it's many, many skills and they're consecutive and there's choreography and it's a lot to remember. And when they're really young, that's the hardest part. They could do maybe every single skill by itself perfectly. And then once they have to put them all together sequentially and like the music turns on floor, for example.
And they have to follow
Sometimes they do 1 out of 10 tricks well, and they're off the music and they're looking around and because they're overexcited. They can't concentrate for that long a period of time initially. That takes a lot of training. So then you have to sit them down after and be like, oh, did you feel you did this part good? Whatever they did really good.
One second, especially if they get at that age, I know it's a little funny to say like a 4 years old or a 5 years old or a 6 years old gets upset for their performing.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said in the past, girls and boys that do gymnastics, they are very competitive individuals,
right?
Naturally from birth, like God-gifted competitive. And then even though they are so young, they want to perform good, and they know when they didn't, or they feel when they didn't, or it's visible like they fell.
Right.
Obviously,
Especially
you fall off the beam, you know you didn't do good. And then they get upset, especially if one of their teammates does better.
That's what I was going to
Understand?
say.
And that's in their face. It's like you see it. Like even though you are 5 years old, your teammate didn't fall off the beam, you did.
Right.
Or the high bar or the pommel horse, whatever they are, boys or girls, depends which gymnastics they do.
Yeah.
And then they get very upset at that age and they don't know how to really deal with that emotion. And that's when you have to teach them how to self-reflect on their performance.
Right.
It's amazing.
And then,
Because
go ahead.
you can't use the word. You can't say, Kathy, you're not self-reflecting. You can't do that.
No. You have to say, like, for example, in a routine, let's talk about girls gymnastics because we both coach girls gymnastics now.
Mm-hmm.
On beam, right? The girl fell off the beam on, let's say, level 3, 6 years old girl does a handstand and she falls off in that handstand, but she does the rest of the routine. It's almost perfect. The jumps, the dismount, everything, right? And then she gets very upset because she fell. She didn't win. Let's say it's in a competition, not even training. She didn't win. She came in last place, right? And she's upset because her performing obviously was not a good performing, right? But helping her to self-reflect is the coach goes there and be like, okay, we fell in that handstand, but we did this wrong. If you did this, I don't know, you squeeze your legs a little bit and your arms, you will hold the handstand. But look how good you did the jump. Look how good you did the mount, the dismount, the turn, understand? Like you point out the things that she did very good and try to get her to actually visualize. Like it's kind of like when you push back the tape on the VH, what's called?
When you rewind.
But she does it on her head, understand? And that's when she starts connecting with that skill of self-reflecting, because then she goes back in her head. It's like, oh, wait a second. Yes, I did good this. I did this good. I did this good. And if I didn't bend my arm in that handstand or I squeezed my leg a little harder or I didn't kick so hard, I will actually get a perfect 10. Understand? And now you go from a big mistake to someone that's motivated because she's like, wow, I can be very good. And now she takes that mistakes and she turns it into positive. You see, it's that saying that says, before you become a champion, you have to learn how to lose. All I told you before, it's part of this saying, right? Because you took the losing and turned it in becoming a champion. Understand? Because you give the self-reflection.
So you have to teach them from day one when they make a mistake to feel what it felt like, going into that mistake, and the same thing when they do something right, to teach them to feel how their body worked right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. That's why we said in previous episodes, it's so important to try to teach them, even from home, to have 100% focus. Because if they can focus on what they're doing, they're going to know the difference between right and wrong. And that sounds really silly, but it's actually really difficult to feel and identify because your body is moving through space and upside down, and it's very challenging.
And the emotion that goes through performing, like just a simple trick, like a back handspring step out on the beam or a back walkover at a lower level, like an 8 years old compete level 5. She can do a back walkover on the beam. It's a scary trick at that age. It's very demanding. Emotionally, like psychologically, to go in and do it, and then all that emotion, and on top of that, now you have the technicality. Understand? Like you think about not missing the hand on the beam, not missing your foot, not spinning the beam, not falling on your head, not doing this, not doing that. That scares you, and then at the same time, you have to feel that, oh, I didn't point my toe, I didn't swing my leg, I didn't kick with a tight leg, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. Technically, it's very complex and it's very hard at that age for someone to do it. That's why it's very important to try to teach them very, very young.
As you
and
told
from the
me,
beginning.
it's amazing because you've told me that when you're performing, you not only see yourself performing well, you can feel it as you're doing it. I mean, that's just an astounding thing to comprehend, that a person can be that in tune mentally and physically with the moment. That's pretty amazing.
You see, I have to tell you something. I don't know if I'm going to explain very well in English this concept, but it's exactly, you see, we all have this self-reflection and this feeling of motion, like to be able to close your eyes and feel where your body goes. Understand?
Right.
Like I can close my eyes and I know that my arms are straight in front of me. I can move my arms sideways and I know where my arms go because my brain sees the movement, even though my eyes are closed. It's the same concept that the blind people use to move around. then we have that ability. But just because we have vision, we don't really use it. Understand?
You're not in tune with it.
Yes. And gymnastics, it is a sport where most of the time you are blind going into a landing, or you are blind going into a trick. And what I mean by blind, it's not like you're blindfolded and you can see it. Although your eyes are open and you can see, you go backwards. For example, when you do it's called Yurchenko vault, right?
Yeah.
It's a round off on the springboard and you travel backwards towards the table. Then you have a moment when you start taking off the springboard, you don't see the table.
Right.
But you
have to
feel
know
it.
where it is. Yeah.
Understand?
Wow.
It's the same thing that for the blind people, they feel the things around you. And gymnastics actually helps you very, very well to develop that feeling.
Yeah.
Gymnasts are very, very interesting athletes. Like if you take gymnast athletes and you study them,
Yeah.
between other
scientifically,
athletes, they are one of the most complete athletically, and they know how to move and balance like so different than other sports that use balance and movement. But because in gymnastics, a lot of the movement is done so fast and so like blind that you can't see. Like when you do a triple flip, for example, on the floor, you take off the floor, you go up in the air, you don't see the landing is behind you. Now you flip 3 times and you start seeing the floor right before the last flip.
Yeah.
Then you have to know exactly where you are up in the air, how much you tuck, how much you rotate, how much you prepare yourself for the landing, for the impact, to know I'm going to land here, I'm going to land smashing into the floor. Like, takes a lot of training.
And you have to think like on certain tricks, like you see your hands, but you can't see your legs.
Yes.
And you have to feel your legs, where they are, if they're straight, if they're bent, how fast they're going. Like it's very strange when you really think about it. So that's why this reflection, like active self-reflection and about constant evaluation of how you do is so useful, and it's pertinent to their performance.
Because it's working together with what's the word for it? The skill of feeling.
Yeah.
Understand? Because when you self-reflect, like I said, you have to go back in your brain and put the tape back, right? And then your body, through your brain, has to feel the motion that you just did 40 seconds before. Understand? And that helps you to develop both feelings at the same time. And they work together.
It's very important, like the non-technical parts too. We talk a lot with our athletes about what were they feeling in a certain moment, especially when they made a mistake. And then they can identify like when their mind was spiraling, or, oh, I actually wasn't thinking, or I was thinking about the wrong thing. I was thinking about falling. I was worried about what score I was going to get. And then they can start to identify when they're doing that again and catch themselves and change the behavior. But also it's comforting because they can look back, like if they messed up in competition, and we'll sit them down after and he'll always say like, okay, you fell off the beam, but why did you fall? And there's a technical answer, but there's an emotional answer too. And they have to be able to identify both to be like really complete. And then it comforts them like, oh, you know what? I wasn't thinking about the correct thing. If next time I just focus on this instead, I'm going to land it. And then they gain confidence and they gain comfort that they can surpass it and become better.
Especially at a young age, the truth is this. At a young age, the technical mistake comes out of it, the emotional. Understand?
Yeah.
The emotional is the one that guides you towards that technical mistake.
So you can actually tell when they've reached a plateau in that self-reflection, when they start telling you before you tell them what they did wrong or what they were thinking wrong.
Yeah, it's like a new milestone. It's like a self-enlightenment almost, because like this morning we had actually a very young athlete.
She just moved here.
Yes, she just moved here from Florida, and she's only 8, and she was watching a much older athlete try to do a back walkover on beam, and she watched her just a couple times, and she looked at me and she said she can't land it because she's second guessing herself.
Wow.
And I
it was not actually. You see, like she didn't give a technical advice.
And she was like, no, I don't want to tell her. I'm like, no, tell her that she's older, but the little one is a little.
And then the older girl did it actually.
And she was like, yeah, you're right. And she's like, yeah, because when you start, it's like you're like, okay, I got this, I'm ready. And as soon as you start going, you start doubting that you can do it, and then she's making a technical mistake after.
So you're saying that the
And
8-year-old saw
the 8-year-old told, how old is she now? 24?
24, yes.
Told a 24-year-old athlete.
Which does recreational gymnastics.
Right.
She comes privately, she loves the sport of gymnastics, but she started very early.
She coached her a little bit.
What she was doing wrong emotionally, and then was able to say, I know that you're doing it because I do the same thing sometimes.
Yes, and she just learned it. Like the 8 years old, I'm just start teaching her, understand?
Yeah.
She's just learning these tricks.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And she was able to, like, was very, very funny moment, like in the nice way. Because I was watching, because I was telling the girl, like I was working with the girl on beam and actually had the little one on the low beam for artistic.
Yeah.
And I was telling the older girl the same thing. I was trying to like be like, okay, you can do it. Stop second guessing yourself. Stop. But she was not like, kind of like not trusting what I was telling her and not really looking at it that way. You know what I mean? And then the young one is like, she wants to tell her. I was like, okay, tell her, you know, and she told her. And then the older girl was like, you know what? You're right. And she got up on the beam and she did her trick and she landed. You know what I mean? And I was like, then like she left the gym. And I was thinking, I'm like, wow, like this little 8 years old, like
future coach
actually turn the older girl mindset in order for her to execute her trick that she was capable, very easy to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But she was keeping herself back mentally, you know?
That's great.
And it's very important, like for our little kids, you know, when they...
But 1 second.
Go ahead.
You see, we work with the little one that way.
Right.
Like when I coach the little one, I coach her that way. I start with the psychological side first, understand, with the emotional side, with the feeling side. And then I go to the technicality. Like if she's up on the beam and she struggles with a trick, I always ask her why. What bothers you? Mm-hmm. You know? And if she tries to tell me something physically, like, oh, my arm doesn't go back, or I can't strengthen my arm, I say, okay, why? What's the reason? And then we go a little bit deeper and deeper into discussion. Then she's like, oh, I'm a little bit scared because I'm going to miss the beam. And then I, obviously, right? You make the technical mistake because you think about falling off the beam. Then I give her that advice correctly based on her fear. Right. Understand? And explain her how to deal with that emotion. But that's what helped her at 8 years old to give that advice to a 24 years old, you know? Yeah.
And then she'll remember it for herself in the future too, that she watched somebody else do it. Now she sees what it looks like from the outside. And then when she does it herself, she can stop it faster.
And she has that behavior to second guess herself.
She does, yes. You know? And what I was going to say is like with the little ones.
Oh, 1 second. Because the story is a little bit more nicer actually. And after she told the older girl, right? And I told you, she has the tendency to second guess herself, especially with beam. Because she had a little flexibility trouble. They didn't train her head. And now once all of a sudden, she's doing harder tricks. Mm-hmm. And I finished with the older girl, and the older girl started working with Ashley, and I took the younger one on beam. And I said, okay, today what I want to try, like we did handspring step outs, I teach her layout step out separately because she wants to compete hops when she's 11. And her training is towards that level of gymnastics, like pre-elite gymnastics. And I said, okay, we're going to put together handspring step out, layout step out on the beam. And she looked at me like, you know, and I said, come on, you can do it, right? You just told her to not second guess herself.
Right.
Like, why would you guess yourself? Like, why would you second guess yourself?
Right.
No. If I tell you can do it and I'm here and I help you, why do you think I'm just going to tell you that and then you can do it and then you land on your head? No. If I trust you, you should trust yourself. And then she looks at me, she's like, okay, boom. And she did it. Mm-hmm. Then she was so good. Like, I'm sparring her, but it's like,
but the level
I guide her, but the level of experience she has and the level of execution that she performed, I was actually very surprised.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
That's great.
When before, if she didn't have that moment of, what's the word for it? When she told her that she's second guessing. It's like a moment of sparkle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you didn't have that moment of sparkle with the older girl, watching the older girl doing the same thing she does and realizing in that moment, right? Because all the time I ask her, why? Right. And she realized like, oh, wait a second, I do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And then because she helped the other girl going through that type of feeling that she has, make her now more mature to take on that feeling of second guess.
It's a milestone, like you said. It's a milestone of
yes, it's a huge one. Special for her, it's a huge one because she's young.
Yes.
By the time
And
she's
she
10
did
years
it.
old, she's going to be,
And she did it in a very positive way.
yes.
know?
Yes. And that's what happens. Like, it's very important for them to identify. And like with even younger than that, like 5 years old, if they have something that they're struggling with, like they can't pull their chin all the way over the bar, they can't hold a certain position and they get frustrated. And then you just remind them to never give up. And as long as they don't give up, they're going to get it.
Right.
And then once they have that moment that they got it, then right away, remind them, like, remember, you just didn't give up when it felt hard and now you got here. And they're like, yeah, you're right. And then they'll go back the next time something feels unachievable. And then you can point out if they're not catching it by themselves, like, remember, you felt like this before when you couldn't pull your chin over the bar and now you can, oh, that's easy
And I do it so easy.
Like, yeah, the same thing's going to happen with this. So it's very important for them to identify the emotions that they were feeling
Right.
when they wanted to give up or they felt down on themselves and how they surpassed them. And you have to do it right then in the moment. You have to point it out. You have to take time to talk to them about how to change their emotions around. You as a coach, you can't get frustrated and just be like, oh, if they were just in a good mood, they would do it, and they're being mopey or they're upset. Well, they need you to help them get out of it, because that's a lot easier said
Look,
than
I'm not going to
done,
lie. It's
change
not
your
easy
mood.
for a coach to put up with an athlete when they are like
Moody.
all the time.
Yeah.
You understand? But some athletes are moody for a reason. You know, they
Mhm.
have a real reason to be moody, you know.
Yeah.
And then, like someone, for example, like, I don't know, she fell off the beam very badly. Yeah, she's going to be scared on beam. If nobody explained her when she fell, the coach didn't explain her, okay, that's why the fall happened. That's why you got hurt. But if you don't do that, it's not going to happen, and try to guide her through it. And they just let her. She fell, she split the beam, she crashed into it. And then the kid, 5-6 days after, go back in the gym when she recover. Obviously, she goes up on the beam, she's going to be terrified.
Right.
And that's why it's important for the coach to, in that moment of a big mistake, especially a big fall, deal with it. Don't run from it and just blame the athlete, like, oh, she didn't pay attention, you know.
Yeah.
No, like, talk to her, explain her, like, okay, you didn't pay attention, but that's what you did wrong, and that's what you have to do correct, you know, and help them identify the reason of the big mistake, you know. And that's going to help them in the future to not be moody. But then when they got moody and they are like that and nobody deal with them, as a new coach, for example, if a child comes in, an athlete comes to your gym and she or he is like that, right, because of the former training, you have to try to work with them and try to work with them through it, because it's not easy. But
No, it's not.
you have to take them out of that moodiness, you know, and show them the positivity, show them how to think correctly, how to trust themselves, how to pride themselves, because that's very important, to pride yourself with your execution, to pride yourself with how you work, you know. I do work hard, I am good, I can be the best, you know. Don't look at it and be like, oh, 4 months ago I split the beam and I'm the worst in the world. No. Yeah, you split the beam one time, but that was a mistake. You did it because you did this wrong.
There's a very interesting word. Everybody knows what confidence is. Confidence is, you know, I think I can do it. You know, I'm confident. But there's a word, self-efficacy. It means I know I can do it because I've done it before. That's the difference.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And you're really developing both. You are developing this notion of what you can become by reflecting back on what you did and why you did it. And then as long as you do reflection positively, you know, innately the athlete is going to, especially if they're having a bad day or what they perceive to be a bad day. Sometimes it's really not. They just beat themselves up over one thing. And then, oh, I'm not good. I didn't do anything good today. Well, it's very important in that moment that you point out, like, wait a second. Yes, you did. What did you do well? Tell me, like 5 things. What did you do well today? And make them be able to identify it. And, you know, you always need to identify what their intent was, especially when they're stuck on it. Like, did you try to make the mistake on purpose? No, of course not. Well, if you tried to do it well and it didn't come out that way, then you need to be proud of yourself for that you were trying to do it well. Now let's see what went wrong and fix it. And then they kind of calm down and start thinking about, like, you know what, like you said before, with the fall? Like, why did it happen? Okay, well, if I just push out of my leg harder, I can do it. I can land the next one. And then they transform that into the self-efficacy of like, I know I'm going to land it.
But
It's
you
all
see, the
connected.
confidence is when I come to America, I have a big problem with the confidence here. Because, now people know I'm very straightforward with things. And I don't want to badmouth people, but you have to teach them to be realistically confident.
Well,
Understand?
yes, they can't be overly.
Because when I come in America, I had very high time because kids will come in the gym. I can't do this. I'm like, did you ever do it? No, but I can. I said, yeah, but we have to work. I have to help you. I have to spot you. No. Just like I'm going to do it by myself. I said, no, you can't. Like, and they will get mad at me, because like, oh, he told me. And the parents will get mad too. It's like, but he told her she can't do it. I said, no, I didn't mean she can't do it. She can't do it now. She needs help. Like, I can let her go try, and she's going to get hurt. Understand? And then my first year here, the kids in the summer, they normally go to those summer camps, right? Where they bring all those big gold medalists and they come there for pictures and stuff. Those guys are not really coaches. They are athletes. They are good. They know how to give advice, but they're not yet a polished coach. I said, it takes time to be a polished coach. It doesn't matter. Like, I was a good gymnast. I was a very good gymnast. And I coach very good right from the beginning. But if I compare myself today with when I start coaching, that guy 25 years ago, almost 30, was a baby. You know what I mean? Like, sure. you need experience, understand? So put it this way. And the kids come back from the camp, and that's a real story. The girl come back to me and is like, oh, Mr. Michael, I can do giants on bars. I'm like, okay. I said, did you do them? She's like, yeah, I did them at camp with coaches. They put me in a strap and they hold me. I said, okay, I help you. She's like, no, I can do them by myself. They told me I can do it. I'm like, what? Said, they say I can't do it. I said, no, I don't think so. They mean it that way. But they did mean it that way because they want to make her, the girl was there for a recreational 1 week, understand? And to make her feel good, right? Because mommy paid $900 a week for the kid to be there. They put her on the straps on the bar to do giants around the bar. And they told her like, oh yeah, you can do this. When you go back home in the gym, you go do it. You can do it. And the kid took it literally. Wow.
Well, of course.
And I have to put her on the bar and show her, like, you cannot even shift your hands on the bar because the strap and the giant on the bar are two different things. Yeah. Understand? You have to learn how to shift the hands on the bar, how to hold the bar. Now you don't have the strap on the hand. Understand? And then she realized that it's like, okay, I have to work a little bit harder, But I remember that was right my first 6-7 months in America. I got pretty frustrated at those coaches. I didn't know who they are, but I remember I'm like, why they told her she can't? Because they put in her head something that was not real.
It's a false hope.
To tell her like, oh, you can learn to do it was the right thing to say because she learned the giants. Understand? At the end of the day, I taught her giant, but not that day, not like this. Understand? It didn't happen that way. She took time. She had to learn. She had to go through the process of learning. And that's why it's very important to teach confidence correctly. Tell someone you could do this, or you can do this if you do this. Understand? It's a process to can do something. Right. It's not just happening because you say it.
Well, that comes out of the honest reflection too. And a lot of kids, if you don't help them learn how to evaluate what they're doing, they're not going to know the difference between when they're really ready to do something or not. And you do have kids that are more overly confident or just good, very brave to go try something because they watch somebody else do it. But it's obviously dangerous to them at a certain point because if they're really not ready, then that's, they shouldn't be doing it.
It's good they are overconfident, but you have same thing. You have to teach them the right way. You have to give them that tool to realize the honesty of their confidence.
Right.
Understand?
Right. Well, that's
because then that can hurt you.
That's what a good coach does, as you said. A good coach nurtures them along, and it tells them when they are ready for it. So,
but remember, I said in the past that the job of the coach is to protect the athlete,
even
from the athlete himself. Understand? Because sometimes you have because they are very competitive individuals. Right. Athletes that compete in sports, especially at a high level. Those are very competitive individuals. They are very cocky. They are very arrogant. They have a big ego. Everybody has ego, but those guys use it. They are not afraid to use their ego.
Mhm.
Then at that moment, that's like a drug. And it's like you have someone on, I don't know, cocaine. You know, the guy goes crazy. Those guys, that ego is like driving them to a point where they are unbeatable. Like when I did gymnastics, like my biggest injury in gymnastics, actually the only biggest injury in gymnastics, that only took my life, actually, came out of my ego.
Yeah.
Came out of me thinking I'm a god. I'm like invincible. I'm not unbreakable. I can do whatever I want to do. You know what I mean? And then I wake up in the emergency room. And I was like, oh, wait a second, I'm
And
human,
your
right?
coach, I remember the story, and your coach said, "Don't do it."
Right.
My coach, yeah, he
Your
said.
coach saw it. You were not having a good day. Don't try that.
He told
Right.
me. But he was young. He was not very persuasive. Persuasive, yeah. He was young. He was like 25 or 26 years old. And I was like almost turning 18. Then think about it, there was not a big difference between me and him. Especially at that age with
So
testosterone. It was like,
you overruled him and did it anyway.
yes.
Yeah.
My ego, my overconfidence. That's why you see, when I said about the overconfidence,
Yeah.
give it wrong to someone can hurt them.
Sure.
It's because I was that athlete.
Right.
Understand? That my coaches just let me run with my confidence, which at one point was overconfidence.
Right.
Understand? Because also, let's put it this way, I was not training correct. I didn't have the right training in the gym or the right amount of training. My focus was not as good in training. Like, I will live like two lives, between a street life and an athlete life. Understand? And I will run from the training to sell I don't know what on the streets, then come back in the gym and go back and I don't know where, and I was not the athlete anymore.
I see.
And then that's how I got hurt too, like, and all the
You're
pressure for the coaches, and I was distracted. Like, my life was like a volcano at the time, My former coaches was like always bullying me and insulting me and harassing me, and I was not in a good spot, But nobody guided me correctly to tell me, hey, calm down a little bit. You are human, you're gonna get broken, like you're gonna break yourself. They didn't tell me that. They were just like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Become a champion, be the champion, bring us a gold medal. Doesn't matter, in a stretcher, no stretcher, we want the gold medal. That's how it was.
Wow.
And that's why it's important to teach the young kids. Teach them to be confident, but realistically confident. Understand?
Well, you mentioned that it's a thin line that you have to walk as a coach, because you have to protect them, you have to nurture them, and sometimes you have to tell them they're not ready for something, but at the same time you have to inspire them to push to the next level. So that's got to be a challenge.
But that it's a challenge, but it's a challenge that the coach should take. Understand? It's one thing to tell an athlete, like, listen, honey, at this moment you can't do the, I don't know, standing tack on beam. It's a flip right on the beam. You can't do it yet by yourself, but let's do this. Let's work a little bit more on this, and you're gonna get it. If you fix this problem, then it's gonna work. Understand? And you guide them towards that. You don't break their wings like, oh no, you're not capable. Understand?
Right.
Or if they're really not capable, try to guide them without hurting their feelings towards something that they can achieve. Understand? To still feed their ego with an achievement that's special for them. Understand? She doesn't have to do the standing tack on the beam. Maybe she's going to do, I don't know, a layout step out or some other trick that's spectacular and she can't do it. And as a coach, you have to look at what the athlete is capable to achieve.
That's great.
And guide them towards their abilities, not towards, they want to do Simone Biles vault. Like, not many girls, let's put it this way, it's going to take, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years until someone else is going to do Simone Biles vault, the Yurchenko double and a half pike. It's a hard vault. You don't need just the athletic skill. You need the physicality, the body type, the power, the craziness a little bit, to go and do it. Because it takes a little bit of craziness. Like a normal person, like a regular person is not going to go there and be like, I'm going to do 2.5 flip spike and maybe land on my head and break my neck. No. Going backwards into a straight surface, like very hard surface, the table, right? Take someone with a little bit of different type of adrenaline level,
It's true.
That's why Simone, she's special.
Yeah.
She is.
She's a special athlete. I don't think so we're gonna see a Simone in the next 4 years.
Well, as you
shocking.
talk all the time, you do more than just train these young athletes to do the physical moves to become gymnasts. You really train them to become champions. The name Illuminating Champions, you're showing them what's inside them and preparing them
Right.
not just to be great athletes, but to be great people. I would hazard a guess that older kids who've been through your classes in the past are great on the job, and they are still self-reflecting on, I shouldn't have said that in that meeting. I should have done this. It didn't feel right. I'll bet you they are interpreting their lives today through what you've coached them. I think that's
But that's why, like Ashley just said, that's why she wants to talk about this subject, because in the gym she's the one who works actually with the younger kids the most. Understand? We coach together, but the younger little girls, they work with her more because it's how to say it correctly.
It's more comfortable.
It's more comfortable. Like, look at me,
like
you know, look at my face, look at my voice. It's one thing when, yes, it's one thing when I'm on the other side of the gym and I make a joke and I'm like, hey, don't be lazy, point your toes, jump a little harder, and I make like a funny thing and they like it, they love it. But if they are with me more than 5 minutes, just my presence, it's a lot of pressure. Understand? And I know, I'm aware of that. And then, like, you see, even that we take in consideration.
Yeah.
I don't work with the younger kids like a lot in the gym, not because I don't want to coach them. I would love to stay with them all the time, but I know they cannot put up with the pressure of just my presence, understand? And then she's the one that does it very well, and she's the one that's the softer part and
that's great.
You know? And then that's why she chooses the subject, because she works with them and she's teaching them that self-reflection. But you see, this self-reflection is following them in life. After, like, understand, when they finish with the athletic life and they are like 18 years old, 20 years old in a college, they can use this. Self-reflection is actually a good tool. Like I said, knowing how to compete, right? It's a tool. Being competitive, it's a tool. Knowing how to compete in a competition, it's a tool. You have to learn how to compete. It's the same thing with the self-reflection. It's a tool that you can use it in life to better yourself. People that are very successful, they have very good self-reflection quality. Understand? They know how to self-reflect in every single job they do in order for them to be that successful.
Right.
You know, because from that self-reflection comes also the criticize that they give themselves, the positive criticize they give
self-criticism.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
That's why we said in a previous episode, most athletes and gymnasts in particularly go on to be very ambitious and successful people once they stop their sport and they're adult people, you know, because they can constantly self-reflect and go back and reevaluate and desire to do better. And it really does carry through their entire life if you spend the time to teach it to them. And I think one of the most vital times to do it, as for parents and for coaches, and then for athletes last, because you have to guide them towards it and help them with it, is after competition. You know, you really need to sit down after competition, not forced, but for parents at home, if the child is coming home from competition and they're feeling down and they want to talk, like they start initiating a conversation about how they did, then try to go deep into the conversation and have them point out what they did well, and just kind of stick with that at
deep,
home.
but not pushy.
Right. I was going to get there. So let them say what they did well. If they want to set some goals for the next one, that's great. And kind of leave it at that, because then when they go in the gym, you know, for coaches, we think, because we do it after every competition, we take a whole next practice to sit and evaluate the competition girl by girl, what they were feeling in like their best moments and in their worst moments, and why things happen, and go through the whole concept of what makes a champion. You know, when we start the season, before it's even close to competition, that's one of the things that we ask them. They filled out like a whole survey this year about what their goals are, what their dream is for the end of the season, where do they picture themselves, what's important to them in an athlete, and what are the qualities of a champion. And it was hard for some of them that are newer to identify because no one's ever asked such a deep question. But the kids that have been with us, they know it's not the person standing atop the podium. It's not just them. It's, somebody that strives to be there, someone that's holding themselves to a high standard, someone who's giving their best effort, someone who is holding themselves accountable to always become better. And those are all qualities that you need every single gymnast or every single athlete to realize that they have within themselves, no matter how they perform that day during competition. So that's why, as a coach, it's really important to go over the competition after and remind them of those things and remind them that their placement upon the podium is changeable by the next competition. It's not permanent, whether they're first or last. They're always capable of becoming better. Even the first place person can and should want to become better.
Oh yeah.
So
because if you don't, the second place is gonna beat you next time.
Exactly.
Oh.
So that's why that is so important to do, especially in times when they are upset, because you need to get them out of that mood and you need to get them excited to be better, but also to value who they are as a person, not just how they place as a competitor. And that's one of the largest things that we're trying to do with this Illuminating Champions movement, we like to say, because we are trying to change this culture of gymnastics where your value is dependent upon what level you get to or what placements you get, or if you competed in college, or, there isn't one there's maybe athletes that are more accomplished than other athletes, but there are not athletes that are more important than other athletes.
Yeah, because the athletic accomplishment, it's there. You are an Olympic champion, but the one that didn't go to the Olympics but work hard and had the discipline, push herself or himself through like struggles, right? Is as important as the one that's Olympic champion.
Right. And
maybe they didn't make it for a reason. I don't know. They have an injury. They didn't have the natural talent for the sport, but they had the love for the sport and they did it anyways, which you have to respect them because they could do something else and they didn't.
Right.
They didn't have the family environment. No.
There's many factors.
There's many factors, especially in America, where it's not a communist socialist country when the child is taken from the family, put in a governmental institution, and they make them super athletes. The mother and the father are not involved at all almost.
Right. And coaches, they have to show that appreciation and their respect for their athletes. Like, I could never look at my girls that are 15 years old in a level that's, midway through gymnastics and have less respect for them than maybe like a little 8-year-old who is training to go do hopes and is already doing the same skills as them.
You see, that's why we fought this past years with the states of Connecticut and USA Gymnastics to make a rule that the lower levels in gymnastics, like from level 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, XL, bronze, silver, to compete, when they compete state championships, the state championships to be held in the arena outside of someone's training facility, to give them the same respect that they give the higher level. You can't put a level 10 to compete in a nice arena with spectators and nice trophy and nice medal, and then you take the XL silver and XL bronze and you put in someone training facility. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, come on, let's go. Those guys are as important. They pay the same membership and they have the same desire to be a good gymnast. They have the same discipline, the same dreams, the same emotions, Like a girl that's like 6 years old and fall off the beam has the same feelings like Simone Biles has at the Olympics. Or a girl that's 9 years old in XL silver that she didn't make it to regional championships because she did a mistake on I don't know what event. She has the same feelings, negative feelings, and the same pain emotionally that Ali Reisman felt when she didn't win the Olympics in 2012. No, 2012, yes. Right, is that correct? In London, right?
2012.
It's the same thing. Just because they are in a lower level, you don't treat them with respect. That's why it's very important for the coaches to learn to make this shift
Yes.
to treat athletes with the same amount of respect as everybody else. Like if an athlete is in level 10 or is an elite gymnast and she's national champion, the one that's in the gym and she's like competing excel bronze and she's last place, treat her with the same respect, even though she's not as good as your best athlete. You know, imagine I don't make a difference between kids. The only difference is the level of training. Understand?
Mhm.
Because it's based obviously on your abilities, from physical to mental and psychological abilities. But my approach to training, my how to say it correct in
Your
English?
emphasis on
Yes,
like,
it's the same way. I'm
how
expecting
important
from
they are.
the girl that struggled the most to perform as the good as she can, as the one that's the best. Understand? I give her same advice, same attention, same everything.
You're just as excited.
Yes, I'm
Because-
excited. If she does her beam routine, I'm bravo, and she gets a 7.5. And sometimes maybe at competition, people look at me like, is that guy crazy? That guy got a 7. But I know that 7 for her was like a perfect 10 for
That's
someone
great.
else.
Right.
Now I said, because that's her ability in the sport, but she loves the sport. What you want me to do? Go there and tell her like, don't do it?
Right.
No, she loves it. I respect her for that because I know she can do another sport where she can be better, but she does the sport of gymnastics.
Right.
Then I'm going to help her to get as good as she can at the sport. You know?
That's good.
Well, and the reason why I brought that up is because how you approach your athletes and that feeling that you give them.
One second. By the way,
directly-
we make the change happen. Now, USA Gymnastics make the rule that state championships cannot be held in training facilities. Has to be held outside the
That's
arena.
in
fantastic.
Connecticut.
In Connecticut, yes. And I have to thank my girls because my girls, my Excel girls, actually, the silver and the bronze team, they boycott the state this past year.
Mm.
And they are one of the best team in the whole state. And they didn't go to state championships, and the parents agree and the athletes agree to not go to protest against that. The state championships was in someone training facility.
That's great.
Which for me, I find it disrespectful because, like I said, I don't care the level of gymnastics. I don't care the age the kid is.
Right.
They do the sport, respect that.
Right.
No.
And I was saying, as people who are hosting competitions or coaches or even judges, whatever capacity you're involved in the sport, that you're not the athlete, if you don't show that respect to the athlete, that directly correlates to how they reflect upon themselves.
Yes.
And they go home and they think negatively about themselves and they think they're not important. So it's just super important that you do that if you want them to have a positive self-image, which you should want for them.
Right.
But
And it's very important to self-reflect, even for the organizations that run the
Yes.
sport.
Right.
Because when they self-reflect for real and honest self-reflection, they're going to find out that they can do things better for the younger athletes to grow
Right,
up in
and they
a
don't have to
safer
be-
environment and in a better environment to grow with the sport. Understand?
Right.
yes,
Because the child that's today 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old and compete level 2, 3, Big Cell bronze is the one that's going to be in the future the Olympic champion.
right,
Because Simone Biles didn't start in elite gymnastics.
right,
Simone Biles started in level 1 or 2 or 3 when she was 6 and 7. She was at the bottom. And she make it up to the
That's
top.
great.
Then don't give respect to the athlete just when they make it there. Try to give respect to them when they started from the beginning.
and inspire
You know.
them to get up there.
Because that's how I grew up in my country. I said, when I started gymnastics, nobody cared about me. I said, there was no respect for me. The second I become a champion, I win a medal, everybody's like, oh, wait a second, he has potential. Let's give him a little bit of attention.
Yeah.
But before that, I didn't care. I was a nobody, you know, and they make you feel like that. And they let you know that, yeah, you are just somebody there, like just go, you know. And for me, I hate that feeling because I know how it feels to walk into a place and people look at you like you don't belong
Like you're
over
unimportant.
there. Like you are unimportant and someone else has more important than you.
Actually, I just told our girls today something that they were shocked by, and they know it, but it never really hit them, I think. I was talking to them about performing and how they need to show off and they need to put on a show. And I asked them, like, when you go see a show, do you want to be entertained, or are you going to sit there and be fine if you were bored? And they're like, no, it better be good or I'm leaving. And I'm like, okay, well, you're the show when you're at competition. And then I said, like, when you go watch the gymnastics competition, it's elite level gymnastics, you pay to watch them, right? And they're like, yeah, of course you have to buy a ticket. I said, yeah, well, when you go compete, everybody else sitting in the audience, even if they're your parent, pays a ticket to watch you. And they were like, oh, they do pay to watch me. I said, yes, then you're important.
Yeah.
They're all there to watch you. You're so important that if they're paying money to see you, then it's also your responsibility to perform and condone yourself with good sportsmanship, like conduct. And then they were like, oh, I'm important. So it was funny to have them realize that. And they're like, yeah, actually my mom does buy a ticket when she goes in. I'm like, yeah, but all the other people that are sitting there paid too. They're paying to see you. And that made them like feel really good. But you have to let them know those things. They have to know that they're important and they're amazing. And they should remember that, because in the end of the day, gymnastics is a sport that is supposed to be physically impossible in the world of science and physics. You shouldn't be able to do the things
it's impossible.
You do. Right. And we're defying physics by doing the sport. So even if it's something simple like a handstand, that's still something amazing, and not every human can do it.
But think about this. In gymnastics, you fight the most powerful force on the planet, gravity.
Right.
At the end of the day, think about to go up in the air and do 3 flips. How much power?
I have trouble every day, every morning when I have trouble.
You're like Superman, like to do it for real.
Like people don't understand. They think that when they look at gymnasts, male or girls, they look at them as some like soft athletes.
You're right.
And they are not. They are very, very tough. They are like pound for pound out of the Olympic athletes. They are number one.
Yeah.
Like I told you in the beginning, like you make a science study, and a gymnast athlete is going to overclass any other athlete from any other sport. Athletically, mentally, psychologically, you name it. They better than everybody else. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh yeah, he's biased. I'm not biased. I did another sport
there are some good studies out there on gymnastics.
It is true.
ESPN did
An athlete is a gymnast athlete. It's like a Superman or a superhero. You take a girl, like, look, I take one of my girls in the gym now. I take a 10 years old. And I take her to the Marine Court when they do those chin-ups and push-ups. And she's going to beat grow-up men. I'm not joking around. I bring them there and they're going to beat them, like those guys are going to look at them and go like embarrassed.
You know, that would be a great video for you to do one day.
Some of our kids have done it because they'll go to like a fair or something and they'll be there recruiting and they get on the bar, start doing pull-ups, and everybody's like, wow. So
that's great.
It's
funny.
Strong.
They're very strong.
They're very strong. Because you fight the gravity and it's a different force. It's one thing to lift 300 pounds of dead weight. Understand? It's another thing to put your body in the motion at 130 pounds and move at the speed of I don't know what, and the force goes up and the body weight goes up 10 times. And when you start putting physics into the movement of gymnastics, it gets crazy.
They haven't even figured out how to measure most of it.
How much more pressure your body takes on one simple landing for a double out of the high.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're still
like
kind of guessing
6 times your body weight.
Yeah.
You know? Then think about it. They're strong athletes.
Right.
Very strong. And it takes a lot to be a gymnast. That's why you have to respect them. Not just gymnasts, all the athletes. Especially the ones that start very young. Those are very determined individuals. And you have to respect that. And you have to teach them to appreciate themselves for that dedication. You know?
Right. Their appreciation of themselves is going to start by them feeling appreciation from you. So that's why we wanted to have this episode today. And unless you want to say something else, I just wanted to mention something that's coming out soon.
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done.
So
I talk a lot.
So you will see on our website, illuminatingchampions.com, right now there is a course that's up for parents, and it's about gearing up and getting ready and prepared for competition season and all that it entails, from traveling to the night before, the morning of, what to eat, what to bring, what products to use, what goes on at a competition, how to follow this.
Cosmetic products.
Cosmetic products, yes. How to do their hair, what to look for in their routines to see if they're going to score well, and how to go home and help them with this aspect of self-reflection. And one of the products that's also available on our website, but very soon it's also going to be available on Amazon and Kindle as a book, is this little book that we have right here. I know it's a little bit hard to see in the camera, but it's Golden Attitude Gratitude Journal, and it's Reflections of a Champion. So it will take your athlete, your gymnast specifically. This was designed for gymnasts. It could be used for anything, but some of the content is geared specifically to gymnastics. It will take them through the season, and it will ask them after every single competition things like, today I've proven to myself that I am someone who is, and that's stemming totally away from whatever they did technically. Who are you as a person? Are you a fighter? Are you a champion? Are you brave? Things like that. What did you do today that
Just 1 second.
inspired someone else?
If I was writing the answer over there, I would have all those answers. Brave,
right.
champion, you name it.
But not
smart.
everybody does.
I have them in one. You see, that's how cocky I'm still.
And ask them about what they overcame that day, what they're proud of that day, and what they've learned. And that's after every competition. And between, it gives them little just mental, either affirmations or things to think about that night, to reflect back upon really deep within themselves. So this is all about the emotional part of just reflecting back on what you were feeling and what you can be proud of and what you value about yourself. And so you could really become inspired by yourself and who you are as a person and really illuminate your inner champion. So this is going to be available. It actually may be by the time that this episode launches. We will put it in on YouTube. We'll put it in the description if it's available on Amazon that day. But keep checking back on our website because it's becoming available on Amazon. So that will be available to you. And our next program that we're going to do is going to be for athletes. You'll see it on our website very soon. We're planning to launch it to begin the course before the end of the year. So maybe a great holiday gift for your athlete. It's going to be a course that's called I Am Worth More Than Gold. And it's this concept right here. Who am I as an athlete and who do I want to become? Because I'm worth more than the medal that I'm striving to attain.
You see, she said in the book over there that after they do this, they learn how to self-appreciate themselves, right? You said that. We talked in the past when I said, become your own idol.
Yes, that's what you're learning to do in this book.
And that's very important because like I said in the past, like when you have an idol, you never treat that idol negatively. You treat that idol with respect. And then if you make yourself your own
right
idol.
there, be your own idol.
Yes, that's my phrase.
That's his phrase.
Be your own idol. It's very, very powerful to be able to put yourself at the level of your own idol. Because that's going to help you to go through everything and treat yourself with respect even in the hardest moments. In the biggest failures or falls, you're still going to look at yourself with the respect of a champion, and then you're able to stand up and go back and make the adjustment and one day become the champion that you want to be.
Exactly.
Because being a champion, again, is not just winning the gold medal. It's the attitude.
Right.
It's the discipline, it's the work ethic, it's the grind, it's the courage, it's the determination, it's going through fears, going through weakness, falling 1,000 times, standing up 1,001 times, and then the 1,001 time you win that gold medal. That's being a champion.
Yeah. It's that champion attitude or that golden attitude. So, tying off today's episode, we do want to leave everybody with some tips so that they can create their own luminous moments. We'll start off with coaches like we always do. And that is going to be to take time to really notice the emotional state of your athlete while they're practicing.
Not just the technical and the physical state.
And get into their mind, ask them what they're feeling, and try to help them flip those negative thoughts around by not just positive self-affirmation, but giving the technical advice and refocusing their mind, and remind them that they're doing a good job, especially when you see them struggling. If they haven't given up yet, just keep telling them you're doing good, you're almost there. Keep going, just focus on this, and keep them excited. And then they're going to be pleased with their performance, even if they didn't reach their big ultimate goal.
Look,
yet.
I'm going to make it short. I'm going to give a very short example here, a short story.
Okay.
I was teaching a very young girl a pass on floor, a long pass. She was doing a round-off, layout flip with a half turn, step out, round-off handspring, and the layout at the end. But she was like 8 or 9, right, when I started teaching her. She was very young.
9.
And she was competing already, but she was having a little bit trouble, like landing it correct. She'll go a little bit sideways. She will not feel it right. And I will give her the technical advice, right? And she will try to do it, but will not come out correct the way I want. And at one point, I stopped her and asked her, like, what do you feel when you do this half-turn step out? And she couldn't explain me, right? And I told her, like, listen, this is the correction, the technical correction that I gave you. And she looked at me and I said, now, I want you to feel that. I don't want you to try to do what you think I'm asking you to do. I want you to go back in the corner of the floor. Take what I told you. Try to do it, but the way you feel it. The way it's coming to you. I told her, like if you put it in your heart and you feel it, how are you going to feel that movement that I tried to explain, And she got back and took her 2-3 repetitions, was perfect. And after that, she never had a problem with it, But took me too as a coach a little bit to figure it out that was not just technical, understand? Like to get to that point to be like, okay, let's use the emotional example, which was having to do with feelings, right? I didn't try, and I told her, I don't want you to be a robot. I don't want you to take my correction and do it the way you see, like I told you, arms up, and you're like, okay, I'm going to bring my hands up the way he showed me. No, I want you to do it the way you feel it. I want you to do that, but your way, not my way. I don't want you to try to do it my way, the way you think I would like it. And then it's much easier, like they start building in that emotion, that feeling, and they start feeling what they are doing, and they start liking it.
Right. And then our next tip is going to be for parents, and that is going to be, your role as the number one supporter of your athlete is also the person that helps them positively self-reflect. You need to really do things like in this book, like who are you as a person? What are you striving to be? Be proud of yourself for that all the time. It's very important that you just uplift them in their pursuit. And no matter how well you want them to do, you don't define your affection towards them or, your approach towards them emotionally based upon their outcome of how they placed in competition or how well they're doing in training in comparison to their teammates. You really need to just be there as their supporter and help them have that sense of self-love, because then their performance is automatically going to be better because they go in confident, they go in loving themselves and appreciating themselves, and their mind is in a positive state. It's nearly impossible to concentrate, and it's definitely impossible to concentrate accurately when you're feeling bad and down about yourself. So you can really do that from home for your athlete. And then lastly, for athletes, remember that you are worth more than gold. And when you're performing, whether it's in the gym or at competition, always first give yourself credit for what you have attempted to do, even if it's the worst turn you've taken in your entire life. If you tried to make it a good one, then be proud of yourself and go from there and reevaluate what you need to do. Try to notice how you were feeling, if your mind was not focused on the right things or if you're scared, and flip your thoughts around. And if you are struggling to do that, try to talk to your coach about what you're feeling, because as much as I say, coaches, be in tune to the emotions of your athletes, we are not mind readers. We're pretty good, but sometimes you need to hear from the athlete exactly what they're feeling. So try to talk to your coaches as much as you can about how you feel, especially when you're feeling very uncomfortable about
And don't be
something.
embarrassed of your
Yes.
emotion. Wherever your emotions are, wherever your feelings are, don't be embarrassed. There's nothing wrong with it. It's normal to have emotions. It's normal to have feelings. And if they need to be corrected, the coach is there to help you correct them, or your parents,
Yeah.
Doesn't make you weaker. Like, even if you're scared, you're terrified of something, that doesn't mean you are a weak person, because being courageous doesn't mean not being scared. It means being the most scared, but do what's right in that moment. And to learn to do what's right in the moment of the biggest fear takes a little bit of practice and help from someone who can help you, guide you through that emotion, and gives you the right tools to think correctly in that moment.
Right. Exactly. So we want to thank you, Mark,
Thank you,
again
Mark.
for helping us with this episode.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you for listening to Illuminating Champions. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for our next episode.